Yep. Okay. And I think we have here who we were expecting to have here.
Yes, just real quick again, everybody, I'm going to start recording, and as is BCTV, if you don't want to be recorded, please exit the meeting now. Thank you.
Okay, it is 7 o'clock and I will call to order the Jamaica Select Board meeting for Monday, October 12th. First item, as always, any late additions to the agenda? Perfect, I love it, nothing. Now, all right, so on to the second item. I'll break that up. Let's break that up into two. There's two: approve the minutes from our special meeting on August 6th, and also then our regular select board meeting from September 28th. So
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from August 6th as written.
And
I'll second the motion.
okay, any discussion? I did have one item to mention as a that the banner was actually provided by, and I can't recall the name of the organization, but it wasn't the state. It was the West River Valley something such and such. The woman was actually on the meeting, and I didn't have time to go dig back in to see who that was.
Well, I can just, you know what, I can edit it just simply to say created by a nonprofit organization in the state of Vermont.
That's what I was going to suggest too, that we don't actually need their name in there.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Looks like a few people fell off the meeting.
Some did, I don't know. Yeah, I keep an eye on it. Someone came in I didn't recognize and left right out, so I don't know who it was.
Yep, it looks like Paul fell out somehow too. Anyway, so motions on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes from the August 6th meeting, say aye.
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 So we have 3 in supporting. The motion passes, or the minutes are approved, I guess is the way to say it. And now I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from the September 28th regular meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion or changes on those?
Paul's always the discussion, so.
All right, hearing no discussion. All in favor of approving the minutes from September 28th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Minutes from the 28th pass, or are approved, I guess, yes. Next item on the list here was updates and discussion on the Rawson Bridge in the town trail located off of the West Jamaica Road. And Jessica has a few updates on that too.
Yes, I do. And I apologize. There is a fly in my room.
You and Pence.
Is it in your hair?
The flies are all over, yes.
Oh, they really, they are. I just want to have the documents in front of me in case I want to consult with them. Okay. So let me go back to the meeting. Give me one sec. Okay. So obviously this is not the first meeting that we're discussing this topic. The topic, again, just to ground everybody, is to respond to a request from the owner of the property that's associated with the Rawson Bridge, which is currently a trail. It is not a highway maintained by the town. However, it is a trail that is owned by the town. Some years ago, in about 2010, 2005, 2010?
2010, yeah.
2010, the town made the determination that it was in the best interests of the town of Jamaica to downgrade the highway to a trail. I did review the documents around that action that was taken, the response by the owner, the reasoning to that, the objections that were made at that time ultimately was resolved by agreement. However, the bridge had at that time already been assessed as having some significant structural failures, which is why the town made the decision that it made and blocked it from any vehicular traffic. No improvements have been made to the bridge in that time, so another 10 years has gone by. There have been storms intervening. I don't believe it's been that the town has taken a step to evaluate it since then. Although I believe Mr. Simmons has had some engineering firm look at it to determine what kind of work would be needed to repair it, to make it safe for his use at least. He's requested that the board in essence, give up fully that bridge and associated trail as a town-owned trail, and instead leave it to him fee simple. And on that basis, he would be interested in spending the money to repair the bridge and beautify the area, with the understanding that the town would no longer be obligated, the town has limited obligation now, but that understanding that any improvements and maintenance would be entirely his responsibility, and it would no longer be a public trail. I'll remind the group that some other salient facts are that that trail is of limited use by members of the community. It does not cross any property to another property. It served solely that property which at one time was in use, but is really no longer. It is now a vacant lot. The trail itself only extends about 50 feet, as I recall. It is, while the town would not suffer any direct liability if someone were injured in the use of that bridge or the attendant trail, we have all expressed, reservations about the fact that it is a risk and someone could be injured. I'll also note that it's been the advice on the part of learned individuals, including Charlie Peck most recently, that by and large, towns that operate in the manner that they do in the state of Vermont are often loath and ill-advised to give up any town-owned land, including something as simple as a trail. It would be deleterious of the board to set any kind of significant precedent that the town was willing and happy to engage entreaties from various members of its community to have the town deed to them whatever easements that the town currently owns. That any action that's taken by the board now should be one that's taken deliberately without precedent, and where we would articulate the truly unique circumstances involved in this decision, namely that this was a matter of some discontent by the landowner at the time of the initial decision to throw up the highway in favor of a trail, that there is a condition, a potentially unsafe condition existing in the town. The trail is short. It is of limited use and enjoyment by the members of the town, that the landowner is loath to make an investment in the bridge and beautification absent direct ownership thereof. And those would be, some, and there might be one or two others that I would recommend articulating. As we discussed at the last meeting, I did take the opportunity to confirm essentially what had already been shared in terms of advice of counsel, which is that the town is immune from liability associated with the condition of the bridge. To that, if Mr. Simmons were willing to make the investment in the bridge, he could certainly do so. There's nothing there's nothing about the nature of the ownership being that the town owns the trail that would prevent the town from allowing that work to proceed. That we are facing an awkward situation right now. I had been curious to press council on the ownership of the bridge, and to be frank, based the documents that they had in hand that were forwarded to us this week, don't clarify that for me. I would have to do a title search, which, we don't necessarily have to make a decision tonight. I can tell you where I'm leaning, but if it's interesting to the members of the board and the community, I would work with Sarah. We could, she could be my gal Friday, and we could pull all the documents going back to the original easement, which again, may or may not clarify that. It may have been a matter of law, as such law that was in place at the time, all of which is discoverable. But as of right now, that issue is not crystal clear. That being said, lack of clarity on who owns the physical bridge doesn't prevent us from taking an action, and doesn't necessarily inhibit us from making a decision.
Yep. And I wanted to add to that too, something from the beginning, that Jessica and I have also have been in contact with Nick Lowe, who works at Paul Gillies' office as our town council. So a lot of this information has been coming from him, and like Jessica mentioned, from Charlie, and Jessica's done a lot of research into it too. I think the issue of ownership of the bridge is one of the big things. It's whether or not you go back, and it sounds really logically clear, like, oh, sure, the town owns the bridge, but there's also there was legislation back in 2015, which was after this 2010, all the things that happened then, when it was very clear the town owned the bridge, or so it's not as clear now. A lot of unused trails and right-of-ways reverted back. I can't remember the name of the law, but it's interesting that the trail is still designated on our highway map, but the bridge isn't. So it's even more confusing about the actual ownership of the bridge. So I'm thinking one of the things I just want to add to is what Jessica said, is that we're not absolutely being held to make a decision tonight. I mean, we can dig further if people feel they want to. And then the other option is that we can just say, hey, we're going to just leave it be. If he wants to put money into the bridge, he's welcome to. So there's a couple of things we can talk about or move forward on. Any other comments or questions?
I think that, it is a heritage forest. He has had challenges logging it and keeping it forested because he can't get the logs out. I think that is something to think about. I think he does the open land, because I've gone hiking up there many times.
Mm-hmm.
He opens the land up for town residents just to go, and not that anyone who, if he ever sold the property, there's no guarantee that that would continue. Obviously, I don't know what his plans are in the future, but I think he's been a good steward of that land, and I think those things need to be taken into consideration as well. I hear what you're saying, Jessica, what Charlie was saying around, not giving away town land. I get that, but this is a very short span. And again, it's not someone who's, an adversarial with the town. Like, I need this, and I'm going to get this bridge and shut it all down. I mean, I think it's always been very open and very, easy to work with as far as things go.
I'm with you on that, Tom. Actually, my inclination is just simply to articulate very clearly that this decision bears no precedential value to any future decisions of the board of this nature. To articulate what makes this a unique situation, all the things that we've said, plus what you've said and Greg has said. So that's my inclination.
Paul.
Yeah, can I get clarification on exactly what we're talking about? I know over the course of time, and I'm just reviewing the emails that got back and forth, he's asking us to pick up half the tab for bringing it up to speed. Is that what we're talking about?
One piece of it. Yeah, that's definitely a part of this whole discussion.
Okay, it sounds like we're talking about giving up the trail independent of the bridge.
Well, I think his question about paying for half the bridge led us down this road to say, should we be paying for half of the work of a private person to do engineering work on a town-owned bridge? I mean, it just kind of complicated the whole thing. I think what we found is that he's more than welcome to do the engineering work if he wants to. I mean, we can give him that authority, I guess, if you want to call it that, or we can decide to pay or not pay even outside of this whole discussion, I guess.
Yeah,
Right, I don't think, right, I would take the town, the resolution that we may or may not take tonight, and even the one we're discussing, I think, Paul, we need to separate out the financial piece. The decision would be, is the select board willing to give up the town trail? And I believe at one of our subsequent discussions with him, he articulated the willingness to not actually be necessarily looking to the town to contribute to the cost, but that he was, he felt pretty concerned about writing a big check to fix the bridge if he didn't own it.
right. That's what I got from it too. That's exactly what I thought.
Right.
That the town's not making any commitment to say we'll pick up half of the whatever 130,000 or something, 75,000. So it's fairly expensive. I believe to get all that fixed, that we would somehow transfer the ownership to him and he would take care of everything then. And then he owns that and it's not a town issue anymore.
Yeah, I think Paul's right, though. I mean, the initial question that he presented to us, or one of the subsets, I guess it wasn't very clear, and I say that same thing. It wasn't really clear exactly what he was asking for, other than saying, would the town pick up half of the tab to do the inspection of the bridge? And once the inspection was done, then they could get a much clearer, or he could get a clearer idea of how much it would cost to improve the bridge. We would probably, and I think maybe I delved off a little bit saying, should we be paying for him half of his inspection of a bridge that, he may or may not own, or we may or may not own, and that kind of stuff. So maybe it's gotten more complicated than it needs to be. And we just need to say, sure, go ahead or not go ahead. And we're paying or we're not paying. So,
But I think
I've got his letter up, if I can read it to you, the paragraph.
But Paul, after those communications, he's attended 2 meetings with us and he's re-articulated his thoughts. Maybe we should ask him to put that, exactly where he's landed in writing. But Tom and I seem to have the same recollection, which is that at this point, he just wants to know he owns the bridge, and if he does, he'll take the steps and make the payments. That's where
that's what I understood as well. Yeah, from the conversation. And maybe I may be 100% wrong. I don't know. But
yeah. Well, the
yeah,
thinking right now is that he doesn't own the bridge. So,
or there's confusion on who owns the bridge.
No, right. But if he was saying that if we would make it clear, if we would acknowledge, either deed it to him or acknowledge that he owns it, give up the right of way, he will spend his money to repair the bridge and beautify the area.
And then
that would include giving up the trail, right?
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I was curious to see if those things could be separated, but it doesn't sound like they can be. I mean, but there's town trails that lead off from on the opposite side of the river in all kinds of places without having an actual bridge crossing it. So I'm not quite sure why they can't be separated, that he could own the bridge and we still maintain the right to the trail. But the fact that it's only 50 feet long is, other than setting a precedent, which, like Jessica said, we could be very clear to state that we're not. That would be the only difference there, I guess. My personal feeling is that this is me personally, that not as clear as I'd like to be about who owns the bridge, so that if we're making decisions on something, there's still some uncertainty. And that's, some of that's coming from confusion of the 2015 law, and that the bridge isn't on the map, but the trail is. That's just my thinking.
And my thinking is, if he's not here, we shouldn't make any decisions. I want him here so he can give his input. And if we say, because we could be asking him these questions and he could be answering them. So without more definitive answers on what you're saying, and I know, Paul, you have the original email there, but if there's another letter or he wants to update it and says, okay, I would accept this. You know, sell me the bridge for $1 or deed it to me or whatever, and then I will take care of everything. Then I would support. Yeah, I think we need to either, you know, someone needs to communicate with him to send an updated statement of what he wants, or he has to be here and we can ask him directly. But I don't like acting with him not here, and we still have, like you're saying, Greg, doubts about things and uncertainty
Yeah.
about things.
I was, based on the fact they'd been at the last 2 meetings, I hadn't heard from him, but I was assuming he was going to be here. But I think by the next meeting, we can probably clarify the actual ownership of the bridge, invite him in with him knowing that we need, in advance of the meeting, have this,
Yes.
you know, a decision tree set up based on whether we or he owns the bridge and what his goal is or what he wants to do.
Right.
And what he wants from us.
Exactly. Exactly. That's fine. I can work with Sarah over the next, you know, before the next meeting to see what I can discover in a title search. I'm not getting, I did do a little more research about the, oh God, what's the legislative name was like the Antique Roads Act or something. That's the act from 5 years ago where.
Right, yeah, I can't remember the name either.
Yeah. I mean, and it was intended to help towns that had, you know, numerous roads on their books, and it was unclear, you know, it was to help towns and landowners to, you know, clarify what their rights and obligations were. I'm not sure it's going to help us so much in this case, but I would take a deeper look at that as well. And talk to Nick Lowe too, once I've done that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And then someone else could reach out to Mr. Simmons.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense to me. I don't know if we need to, I mean, I guess there's no motion or anything, but we
Table
can
it,
just,
Table it
we've
till next
discussed it and we've given updates and we can move on to the next agenda item. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda was the errors and admissions requests from the Lister's office. Lou is on the phone here, and I'm gonna make an attempt to share my screen here just so that people can see.
You can't do that. Hold on.
What's that?
You can't do that. Hold on.
Well, it says I can.
Yeah, now you can.
Okay, I just gotta make sure.
Before, though, I had to
wrong
open that
button
up, but
here.
we don't like to open that up in meetings because then people can share whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, I
Like this
won't
week.
share anything else.
Okay.
So Lou's on the meeting. He presented this, or he had forwarded this last week, and hopefully your wife is doing well. I know she had an accident prior to the last meeting, but
Yep, I wanted to apologize for not being at the last meeting, but I was in the hospital with my wife, who fell down some stairs and had a really bad concussion and fractured her back. So
I'm hoping she's okay.
yep, she's okay. She's working. She's moving around really well now, so she's doing much better.
excellent.
Did you share, Greg? Because I don't see it.
I thought I did, but maybe that's.
Did anyone else see it?
Nope.
It's the same one you shared right before the meeting though, right?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. I think I had it set to only.
Aha.
Okay, so
we
this
go.
is what I did resend it earlier, just a little bit prior to the meeting. Lou had sent this out our last week or last meeting. So this is, take it away, Lou.
Okay, there are 2 errors and omissions on this particular sheet. I'm not sure what the order is on the sheet, but one of them is from the Vermont Electric Company, or what we call Velco. Our instructions, whenever we appraise a utility, is that the utility sends us a description of what the value of their property is, and then we have the option of accepting it or not accepting it. In general, we've always accepted what the utilities have presented to us. In this case, our instructions are that we then take what the utility gives us, and if they have not yet applied the CLA, then we apply the CLA. The CLA is the common level of appraiser we get from the state, and I think our CLA last year was 99.5 or something in that range, which means that we take the value that the utility gives us and we multiply it by that CLA to come up with the final value. Well, what it turned out, the utility, the woman from the utility company called and pointed out that she had already factored in the CLA when she gave us our numbers. So when we applied the CLA, we ended up double applying the CLA. So what this errors and omissions is to take away that second application of the CLA so that we use the numbers that were presented by the utility.
Okay.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
So if somebody would be willing to read the numbers into the record and make a motion to that effect, that would be good.
I would like to make a motion to increase the 2020 appraised value for the parcel ID VELCO _ from $343,400 to $347,100.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. Now the second item.
Okay, the second item, this is kind of interesting. This is the second time it's occurred this year, where somewhere in the past, in this case, I think it was about 10 years ago, a survey was done and recorded with the town, but the listers were never notified of that survey. And what happened is the acreage on the survey differed from what the deed actually said. And our philosophy has always been to what's in a survey takes a higher precedent than what's in a deed, because the survey involves much more research and more accurate measurements. So this particular landowner, it's raw land. She noticed a discrepancy and alerted us to it, and hence the reason for this errors and omissions. I think it changes the value a little bit. It lowers it slightly. And to that effect, Sarah and I have talked, and from now on, whenever the town records a survey, she's going to let the listers know so we can compare what's on the survey to what's in the deed.
Okay.
Good idea.
So I will make a motion to reduce the appraised value of parcel 00-L71 from $178,900 to $176,500 due to reduction in acreage from a survey of 0.4 acres to 0.25 acres.
And I'll second
Submitted
that.
in October 2012.
All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of reducing the parcel value as motion, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor, thank you. Super.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Lou. All right, item number 5, update and discussion on R&R signage. So that's the signs in town on the Muzzies building. And John is with us tonight to add some insight into that.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, John.
Just quick recap so we can bring everyone up to speed. As of the board meeting last week and my conversations with Greg, we had decided that we would go ahead and begin the process of fining 3984 Route 30, which is the old Muzzies building, for the 2 signs that are in the front that measure 44 square feet when the ordinance only allows for 32. The one sign on the side by Pikes Falls is 27.33 square feet. So that one is in compliance, and as well as the signs over at Asses are in compliance. So he received a letter from us back on September 3rd with all that laid out. I went back to him with a letter to him and his assistant Mary, and let him know that we would begin the process of fining. And I said, one last ditch effort. If you wanted to remove one of the signs in the front of the building, as a good faith gesture before you replace them both with signs that are in compliance. We could go with that. He wrote me back a letter on the 2nd of October saying he wouldn't do that he was just frustrated with this whole silly process, blah, blah, blah. I reached out to him on his private email and basically just tried to work with him one more time. He was very cordial, talking about all the things that he's doing for the town and so forth and so on. And he proposed that we meet this past weekend. And I said, sure, I'd love to, because he wanted to show me what he has planned and so forth. And, I figured we could get to the discussion of the signs and everything. He then also put me in contact with Marco Furio, who is his head of display for his company, because he's the one in charge of signs. I explained exactly what needed to be done. So net of it all, Marco hasn't gotten back to me. Eugene never reached back out to meet this weekend. I actually went down to town and I believe I saw his car over at Astis. He might have been in there looking at what's going on and how far they've gotten with construction. So anyway, the net of it all, I suggest that at this point that we send out an official letter. I can email it to him, and then I can send it to Sarah, and we can send it out in regular mail. That we begin the process of fining him for the 2 signs in the front of Muzzy's that are not in compliance. We can make that retro to the 28th, which I think is fair. I don't think we should go any way back beyond that, because it just, in terms of integrity and everything. So let me finish, Paul. So then the letter would go out. He'd be the way the ordinance reads is that the fines are every week. So we'd start out with, I believe the way to approach this is to fine him for twice for the 2 signs, not just once. So that would be 25 each for the 2, that's 50. And then they accelerate every week until he's in compliance. So, ultimately, this can get into, if we go all the way to the November 13th, he'd be looking at a $500 fine going forward every week from that point onward. So, he doesn't seem to want to work with us at this point, unfortunately. It's a very simple solution. We offered to him to take 1 down and then give us a definitive time for the replacement of the other 2. He hasn't done that. So that would be my recommendation. The letter goes out. We begin the fine process beginning on the 28th of, so the first week would be the 28th, and then we'd go from there.
28th, that's September.
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry,
That's
September 28th.
Yeah,
Mhm.
28th.
That was our last meeting.
I agree with that. I think we've more than tried to work with them. You have more than tried to work with them. I think what we've done is completely reasonable.
Yeah, I was so hopeful when John said he was going to meet with them last
Yeah,
weekend. I
that's-
was like,
that
okay,
was-
at least face to face. Personal interaction is always great, not emails and
Exactly.
whatnot. But he didn't follow through.
I'll make a motion to send
Wait, Paul, I think Paul has a comment to add. Paul?
Yeah, back to the business of him not following through with John. He has been not following through with John since the beginning of the summer. And I, for one, think that September 28th is being far too generous to him. He has literally done whatever he chose to do, laughed at us, ignored our earnest efforts to work with him. And now we're giving him the summer. Not sure that's
Well,
a
Paul,
idea.
if I could, he filed the application on August 3rd. For various different reasons, the letter did not go back out to him with our response until the 3rd of September. So I don't really think that it's fair to go back to, when he put the signs up, which I don't even know when that was, maybe back in June or something, whatever. But I think to be fair, and, I don't really think that we win anything by having a contest of, trying to find this guy all the way back. I think going forward from the date of the 28th, when all of you agree that it's time to move forward, let's face it. We're already looking at 2 weeks already. So he's up to fines of $150. So, this is going to add up pretty quick. And if he goes through the end of the month, he's looking at a
We're
$500
losing
fine
your,
going
am I
right
the
through
only
the
one who
end.
can't hear, John?
I'm sorry?
You froze up, Paul. Can you hear me? There you go. You're
I can hear you. Could not understand John at all.
Did anyone else not hear me?
I heard you.
I heard you. I heard
Okay,
you.
sorry, maybe it's just me.
No, all I'm saying is that when we're trying to get this guy to move, the fines will start adding up, and they get pretty significant when we get to November 13th. They're looking at $500 a week from that point onward. I don't know, he made a comment in his note to me that, he wouldn't mind making a donation to town. So this is what's going to happen. He's going to be fined going forward through the month of October until he makes a change. So I don't know, that's my, obviously, if the board feels differently, I'll go ahead and do what the board wants, but that would be my recommendation, that we start the fines as of the 28th, which is when he said he wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah, and my take on it is I think there was reticence to fine him because he is a businessman who is investing in the town. We really don't want to have an adversarial relationship with this person, but again, they have to abide by the laws and the ordinances that we have set up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a
Hopefully
very
we've
good
got
balance.
other people that are gonna want to invest in town. It doesn't mean we just roll over when someone comes.
Not rolling over. I mean, we're starting this process to find them. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
holding his feet to the fire at this point. Again, I agree with what you're saying. I don't want to just roll over. It's not like we're saying, well, let's not fine him and let's come on. We're not saying that. We're saying, yeah, we're going through a process now. And if he does make it to the middle of November, he's going to be being fined basically $2,000 a month. That's a lot of money. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's fairly punitive. And again, he's ignored and flouted our attempts to interact with him in a civil manner. So, I mean, yeah, I support it.
And I do have heart for making an investment in the town, but others have invested in the town and beautified their properties with no sign. So, and he doesn't have an active business yet. So he's there are others who are also
Yeah, we're
spending
being
harder
fairly
money to
lenient
make
already.
the
The
town look
fact
nice. Yeah.
that the signage doesn't match what his business intents are. I mean, that's kind of contrary to, I mean, our sign ordinance doesn't specifically say that, but the Vermont sign ordinances do say that. So that we're being fairly lenient, and I can understand where Paul's
But
coming from.
just to
But we
clarify,
haven't clarified it
our-
either.
our sign ordinance does say that the sign actually has to relate to the business that's in the building to which the sign is affixed or adjacent, and it's for commercial purposes. So it does. I mean, it's supposed to be relate to a business that is coming or is in place, and the sign. In fact, the signs across the street for the building, unless both buildings are going to be the same business, which I get. But if they're going to be two businesses, or one is not going to have a business, it is actually in contravention of the ordinance. But
My understanding is that the business at the old Astor's is going to be a bed and breakfast with a restaurant with a patio on the outside.
Mhm.
And the old Muzzies is going to be a bed gear store. He's calling it his flagship store in Vermont.
Mm.
So technically, I mean, I guess you could say that R&R, is
technically it's not, it doesn't comply with the ordinance.
Correct.
The ordinance says the sign has to be for the business that's in the building.
right.
It's called bed.
Whatever, at this point, it's baffling. I just find it baffling.
Yeah, yeah. And Paul,
I would like to, although my friend Tom is elucidated his position quite well, I would like to take a little bit of an objection to the word adversarial. The adversarial part came when he failed to comply with the town's ordinances, not when we caught him failing to comply with the town ordinances. So it's been adversarial since those signs went up, not since the 28th of September. Back again, just my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
yeah, I mean, I think basically, I mean, the one thing in our ordinance, it's not real specific, I guess, when the fees kick in. But I mean, he applied back in beginning of August, stating, he was fully aware of what the ordinance was at that point. I mean, because he filled out an application. Whether or not we approved it or not, given that we missed a meeting and a month goes on. Doesn't mean that he has that time to let it slide. I mean, you know, I'm thinking with you, Paul, on that one. I mean, I see the balance, but he's at least since the beginning of August known of what the sign ordinance was. So I'll entertain a motion if, do we want to, I mean, or go ahead, Paul, what?
Well, in defense of your position or their position or somebody's position, I would say that having a letter from him from the 28th of September or the 28th of August, which is the date you're talking about, 28th of September?
28th of September is when he said he would not comply, and that's when I went back.
Okay, so.
And he said, he then said he wanted to work with us, and he explained what he's doing. And that's when he said, let's meet in person. And I said, that was fine, and I would do that. And then he never got back to me.
All right, so my point is about to be that just to make it simpler down the road, when he completely fails to adhere to anything else we tell him, at least on that date, we have in writing that he understood he was in violation. So anything we do from that date on, we already have him making a statement saying that he gets it. And we can move from there. That way you don't have to get into some litigation about what he knew, what he didn't know,
Right.
all the other nonsense. That just clarifies a date that he agrees with.
Right,
So
but Paul,
from that point going forward.
let me just make a point here, though. I think that the issue is that unless I missed something in the ordinance, it doesn't really state when the fines begin. So it can be considered arbitrary by an attorney on his side. I think when you get to a point where you write a letter to him, or I'm sorry, an email to him saying that he is not in compliance on the 28th, based on the board wanting to move forward, that's what I wrote. I think at that point, it's fair to say we can go ahead and begin the process of finding him. If we go backwards and there's nothing in the ordinance that allows us to do that or is silent on it, it just, if he wants to play hardball, he's got grounds to play hardball. And I'm not an attorney. If there is one, you know, Jessica, I believe you are an attorney. But if it's silent, I think we risk getting ourselves into a pickle. And I just don't know if we want to even go down that.
Yeah, but the
point
point
is to
that
get
I
this
just
guy to
made,
move, right?
yeah, but the point that I just made is in concurrence with what you're asking to do.
Yeah, I think
It's
we're all,
against my-
I think
it's
we're all
against
on
my
the same
feelings,
page.
Okay.
but
Right.
I can
Yeah.
understand the perspective of just simplifying it by using that date. I don't like it, but I understand that there's some
Okay.
logistical avenues that will be beneficial by having a drop dead date with his signature on it.
Yeah.
So why don't we, I mean, I can't make a motion, but I think,
I don't actually, I don't believe we do need to make a motion. We've already acted on the motion as of our last meeting. And now the intent of the board is just to support John in the letter that he's written now to formally initialize the
right. So
assessment of the fine.
Greg, I have two questions for you on that. One is my intention is to send the letter via email to Eugene, his private Bedgear email, not his private, but his Bedgear email, which his assistant had given me. I'll send it to Sarah. Sarah can, put it in, I guess, official letterhead and envelope and mail it. So it is an official mailed letter.
And I think it should be a certified mail.
The only thing about, I just was curious, how do we go ahead and start finding him? Because there's nothing to find in the ordinance. Is it an invoice we send him? Is it something I just write in a note, which I wrote, which says, please remit, the $50 fine to the such and such town address, to the town clerk? I just want to make sure we do this properly. That's all.
Yeah, I think, I mean, and again, I'm making this up, not literally making it up, but just moving like what you suggested in the letter here to remit the fines to the town of Jamaica. And then we can set it up with Terry that on a weekly basis, we're issuing
Okay.
a formal invoice, and that everything should go out. This letter in particular should go out certified mail, maybe even receipt mail. So we know that.
There is a process. Joel is raising his hand. I think, Joel, you have some experience with the town issuing
Thanks,
fines
Joel.
before, but there is a formal process.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he's not going to pay.
Right.
Well,
So
we're
you should-
beyond that. We're not going to discuss that. So,
well, you're gonna have to have a provision. You have to be prepared because he's gonna ask you to sue him.
And then let's cross that bridge when we get there, but there is
Right,
actually.
well,
a
you
formal
should know
process for
Can't do
issuing-
anything about it until he doesn't pay you.
Right,
But
exactly.
you should know that, I mean, you could say all you want to say, he's not gonna pay it.
yeah. Well, we
I
should do
hear.
as much
I
as
thought
we
you were
can
going to
to-
talk about the process that we follow, but there is a level of documentation that does need to be
Right.
produced,
Right.
and we'll produce it.
Right, and we need to formalize all of this moving forward and document it.
May I offer this?
Yeah.
If he doesn't pay, he will have a hell of a time getting a liquor license through this town.
No, and I think we need to stop that conversation right here.
That's
not-
why I said that.
Yeah,
If he
no.
doesn't comply with,
Paul,
if he doesn't
Paul,
comply,
We can't hold that
Well-
contingency.
that's not kosher. Let's, no.
We can all
let's
think
take
what
each
we'd like,
step
but we
as it-
cannot
as
hold
it
that
comes.
formally. Let's move forward with
Okay.
formalizing the documentation that John sends out this later, and we'll set it up through our treasurer that will send out a weekly notice of what his fines are.
So just so I have it clear, just so everyone understands, I will send the letter to him via email. I'll send a copy to Sarah. In the letter right now, as it states that he needs to remit the first fine of $50 to the town clerk, and the address is associated with that. Is that okay, or does it have to? Do I not say that, and then there is an official fine that comes from someone else in town hall?
I said there's no problem saying that, and I actually think if
Okay.
we're gonna put the date on there as September 28th, it's more than $50
correct.
already at this point.
Yeah, well, that's true. I'll have to just revise that to accumulate the amount for 2 more weeks. So he'll be up to, I think the third offense at $75. So he'll already have 150, I'm sorry, 250, $300 of fines.
Okay.
So I'll
And
make that very
there's
clear
no-
in the
I don't
notes.
see any harm putting that in the letter at all, and then we
Okay.
can work behind the scenes administratively to get the actual
Well,
formal.
the letter already has a schedule of the acceleration of the fines. I'll just make it clear that he's already being fined for the set amount that I think, if I did the math correctly, it's $300. So,
And on top of all this, our intent is not to make money on collecting fines. I mean, we want him and each person within the town to follow the ordinances and the guidelines as they're stated, for all the reasons that we have them.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate your efforts, John. This has been a lot of work.
well, it's unfortunate because, he's obviously trying to do something for the town, but it's just been difficult. Let's just put it that way. Let's not get into it. I'll do whatever is appropriate. A letter will go out. Sarah, I'll send you the copy tomorrow morning, and we'll move from there. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, John.
All right, thank you.
Great work on this.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Hopefully the next one will be a lot easier.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
All
Have a
right,
great
thank-
night.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Good night.
Night.
All right, on to item number 6, just an update on the false alarm ordinance that we discussed last week for the fire department. Tom was doing a little bit of research on the process of moving forward with a new ordinance, and I'm also in the process of at least having this reviewed from our town's attorney, so that we can make sure that we get the ordinance correct and that we're able to assess the actual fees or fines if they come up within this one.
Super. So here I've just shared my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. Title 24, Chapter 59 is how we adopt ordinances in the state of Vermont. Basically, if we pass this ordinance within 14 days, we need to arrange for one formal publication of the ordinance in a newspaper, circulates in the municipality. We have 2 weeks to do that. And then this kind of goes into what we have to publish in there. So that's Sarah should go through that. I'm not going to go through all that stuff. If there is citizens who are against it, they need to get a petition and file it. If there is no petition, then the ordinance goes into effect within 60 days. We also need to post it in 5 places around town: post office, Karen store, town hall, town office, wherever. So people can see a library maybe. And then if there is a petition put in, then, and this is the same as, like, we've gone through this before with the sign ordinance. If there is a petition that goes in, then it goes back to a vote at either a special town meeting or at town meeting, and the residents will have the ability to strike down the ordinance if they don't want it. So tonight, if we decide to move forward and approve the ordinance that Bob and the fire department's putting forward, then again, we'd have these 14 days to post it, to publish it, and then if nothing happens on December 12th, it goes into effect. Questions?
I think when Bob was talking about it originally, he was asking for it to go in the 1st of January.
We can do that too, but it's 60 days. So it's clearly written in there that,
I saw that. Mhm.
yeah, unless a petition is filed, it's 60 days it becomes active. So it'll become active, earlier in December.
Well,
But,
we're by the time we, I mean, we got to go through our 14 days first and then our 60 days. So we're looking close at beginning of January.
I don't believe so. I believe the 14 days is included in the 60 days.
Okay. And I guess the other one piece of this is just to have our attorney just walk through the actual ordinance that it's,
Okay.
we've taken a lot of it from what's the town of Stratton has done, so it should be pretty straightforward, but just to make sure that we're all on solid ground with that, and that when it does come, hopefully not, but if we do need to assess any fines with this one, that the fire department has the legal capability to assess those on behalf of the town or vice versa,
So what you're saying is that instead of a vote tonight, you'll have the lawyer look at it and we'll vote at next meeting. That's what I'm hearing.
That's what I think the lawyers should sign off on it, whether or not we move forward contingent on them signing off on it, but I think we might as well wait 2 weeks and have it be done. It still
And if
gives
we're
us
still
enough
looking
time.
for the 1st, it's going to be right there. Because if the next meeting's on the 28th or the 26th, you're pretty close. That's day after Christmas. You got 4 days to the new year, 5 days. So,
Yep.
yeah. So, okay.
I think that the significant question is whether or not the fire department can assess fines on behalf of the town. So that's a really important part for the
Mhm.
lawyer.
You're right. Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of different corporate structure, I guess, if you want to call it that, within each municipality in the state. Sometimes the fire departments are municipal owned, sometimes they're privately owned, and I'm sure there's some background on this that we can make sure we get it right.
Right. Well, in our case, the Jamaica Volunteer Fire and Rescue, Inc. Is not a municipally owned department.
Right.
So we're private in that sense, even
Yeah,
though
but
we're supported by the
But
municipality.
if we're passing the ordinance,
Exactly.
it's town. It doesn't matter the entity that's putting out the fires. The town is passing an ordinance. If you have a false alarm, it's an ordinance within the town. The fire department administers that because they're the ones who have to go up and they're the ones who have to check it out. But that's irrelevant in my opinion. But again, we should get legal counsel to look at it.
Yeah, my fantasy of how this would work is the fire department would address it to the select board and say, this occurred. The select board then assesses the fine, as opposed to the fire department assessing the fine. I don't
Oh,
think.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. It should come from the town. I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way I foresee it. Bob and I have talked about this around and around, and I think that's how I foresee it working. But I think I'd like to see it go to our town attorney first to make sure.
Yep, okay. Yeah, so that's where we're at. We're update. So we'll plan for the next meeting to have everything signed off by the attorney that we can move forward with the motion to get this started.
I think so. Does that sound good to you, Bob?
Thumbs up. Pens
That's
up.
this yes thumb.
That's the yes thumb. All
Yes,
right,
sir.
well, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thank you, Bob.
Next item, put on their update on Communication Union District Business Plan presentation. I hadn't been in conversation with Chris, but I knew that happened last week and thought it relevant that we put that on the agenda now. So take it away, Chris. Thank you. Somebody's ringer's on. Ringer. Okay, Chris.
So the WRC released the business plan finally about a week and a half ago. And last Wednesday, they held a webinar giving its highlights. Both are available on the WRC's website. It's www.wyndhamregional.org/broadband. And you can read the plan and watch the webinar if you go there. I can give highlights of the plan briefly if you're interested now.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe top 10, top couple of takeaways, and more importantly, if there's need to be, I mean, we're obviously.
There is an issue for Jamaica. The top takeaway is there's a clear path to implementing the plan with the current 15 towns that are in the CUD. This leaves out 12 of the total of 27 that are in the region, but they're all considering joining after getting a chance to look over the business plan. So, and more is better for everyone. The plan includes a high-level engineering design, a market analysis, financing models, a review of the operating partners that we might choose from, and a risk model. There are some critical assumptions. One is that we have a higher take rate than the 20% that was in the feasibility study. And we think because of the heightened interest that came about because of COVID, that's going to be easy to get a higher take rate. We're going to need to raise subordinated debt of $14 million and by up to year 4 and thereafter, finance it with revenue bonds. We have two scenarios. One of the issues that was discussed the last time I talked to you was, what are we going to do about the RDOF process subsidizing rich people to sign up and eating our lunch, basically. And so the answer is we've got two scenarios, one where there's no significant erosion of the market from the RDOF process, and another where there is. And if worse comes to worse, what we will do about it is probably partner with the Southern Vermont CUD to form a combined area of the Wyndham region and the Bennington region. And that would get a big enough market to proceed. Financing will come from VEDA, the Vermont Economic Development Association loan initially of $4 million, followed by a subordinate debt of $14 million, and then followed by revenue bonds once we've got positive EBITDA. It was basically cash positive. The engineering plan is called the Gigabit Passive Optical Network, or GPON network. This involves using splitters or frequency domain demodulators to break up the signal on a fiber to individual signals to individual residences, as opposed to having a single fiber from the hub to each resident. It's going to be a ring network, and to pay attention to this part, there are going to be two hubs, one in Wilmington and one in Jamaica. So this involves giving them a place to put a switching cabinet, which is pretty much the size of the switching cabinets we're familiar with, and in one of our public spaces. And I would suggest the fire station would be the best place. We have to provide it with emergency power. The benefit is that the fire station will probably be the first one connected. So that's a big incentive. The plan has indexes with appendices, excuse me, with the more detailed financing if you're interested. The service tiers being considered are symmetrical 50 megabits for standard 200 symmetrical for regular, and 800 symmetrical bits, symmetrical for ultra. And rates will be $72 for residents, $104 and $164 for those three. I missed one of the key assumptions, and that is that we're going to actively pursue subsidies from the feds and the state governments for low-income houses, because most of us think there are going to be a lot of homes that can't afford $72. The one other thing it contains that might be of interest is a review of the qualifications of potential commercial partners. So I would anybody, I mean, there's considerable detail in it, and if you're interested in more, I'd be glad to answer questions or refer you to the plan itself.
Yeah. Paul.
I have two quick questions. Question number one, are the rates that you just quoted for residential and commercial, or just residential?
Residential. The business rates are $90, $124, and $250 for the same.
All right, so it's $90 for the 50 meg rate for commercial.
Yes.
That compares to what we just put in the firehouse, which is $90 a month for 200 megs. Is that what you got, Bob?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I believe that's what that was. Yes.
So that leads me to question number two, and we've discussed this once before. With the subsequent installation of the Xfinity and the Comcast throughout a whole area, and the massive upgrade in our speeds, how is that going to play into the original survey to find out who's interested in doing this back when we were getting practically nothing? Now we're all, my computer went from 5 megs to 163 one night. So I don't know how everybody else in the area is going to buy into something new when we've got this on our lap now.
Well, there's still a number of, and I would say the majority of E911 addresses in Jamaica that are not served by Comcast. And I mean, it's anecdotal, but one person who lives on West Jamaica Road looked at the cost for extending the Comcast line from the hub to her house under the LECAP program, which is another one of the programs under this broadband initiative. And it was $23,000. If she got up to 15 if she got more people to go in with her and share the cost, it went from $23,000 down to $11,000 for 15 partners. If she got 16, it would be free. So I mean, you go figure, but anyhow, that's I think south and north of Route 30, which Comcast, the main cable, runs, people are still needy.
Mm-hmm.
And the approach they're taking is to address the underserved areas, towns and areas first, and then go back and try to, once we've got a network established, go back and try to compete with Comcast and CCI and anybody else that's already there.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I think we need to consider too is that Comcast has just come in. We don't know. I mean, granted, you have more speed, and yeah, you've been had it for a week or whatever, and wow, this is great. We don't know the longevity. I know a lot of people in Winhall who hate them and say it's unreliable, and the speeds start great, and then they don't get speed. So that's hearsay. Yeah. It's I don't have any data to back that up, but I'm just from talking to people about that, namely my kids who game all the time at their moms. So I mean, we don't really know. We know what Comcast came in. We know that we're all getting upgraded, but we really don't know what that service level is going to be like until we get more experience with using their technology.
It's anecdotal from from where my son lives, but, you know, their sucker rates for their first year go up dramatically after, you know, after a year or two. So
Yep.
whatever you're getting for now is not necessarily what it's going to be 3 years from now.
Joel, I see your hand up on,
A couple of things. First of all, I just ran Speed Test, which is a iPhone program, and I'm supposed to be getting 100 megabits, and I'm getting 38. And the broadband program is symmetrical. That means if you
Right.
get 200 down, you get 200 up. I'm getting 5 megabytes up.
Yeah, generally with cable modem, which what they are, or even DSL, even if VDSL or ADSL, it is higher rates coming down because you're streaming, you're pulling more data down than you're putting up.
Right.
It's
But
typically
38,
like,
but 38
Yeah.
instead of 100.
but that could be
My,
your
my, my rate is, for internet only, my rate is $40. It will go up. There's no contract, and that's only for a year.
Who's that with?
With Xfinity, it was just put in. I think the firehouse, if it has Xfinity, it probably has 200 down, but only 6 or 8 up.
depends.
Firehouse has got the
My house, again, I would say-
Comcast business end, which is different than the residential end.
And
But it's not a lot more.
I can say with my consolidate, I have 60 up, 60 down, 10 up.
10
So
up,
that's,
right.
I mean, he may have 40 up or 25 up. That's not unusual
Right.
to do that. Joel, you also need to be careful because your phone isn't going to get the same throughput as a computer would get
Yeah,
necessarily.
I get
even
it.
on
I
wireless.
get it.
So your 38 could just be your wireless in your house versus if you try to.
Yes, that's
computer.
all true. That's all
Yep.
true.
So-
I went to the hearing, the Public Service Commission hearing way back. And everybody there who had Comcast, almost without exception, hated them. That their service was lousy. And I have spoken to technicians. The guy who did the installation here was pretty good, but I have spoken to technicians who have no knowledge of what they're doing. They're basically just salespeople. So from what I'll pay more to get broadband if we get it, and I wish we got it sooner.
Yeah, this symmetrical is nice. Like at the college, any circuit that I buy professionally is always a symmetrical circuit. You would never get, you know, I have 4 gigabits at the school I work at, but we would never do 4 gigs and 100 down. I mean, we do 400, 4,000, 4,000, you know.
Right.
So that is a big thing that they're doing. And it's really nice that the ring's going to be here, that we're going to have a station right here, because that could make a difference too. Just with the speed of them rolling out, I agree, Chris, and just having it here.
And they don't have a commitment to go to remote locations in town. They don't have that commitment.
Comcast doesn't.
No, they go where they go where they can make money.
They go where they can make money, exactly.
Right. And this broadband program is based on the fact that they reach the most needy first.
Right. It's exciting news, Chris. That's great.
yeah, nice.
800 is that's pretty fast for our residents.
Well,
You're pushing a lot of
if there's a business that needs more, there's dark fiber included in the plan. So if a business needs 10 gigs, they'll run a fiber to that directly to that business too.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, super. Bring it on.
Super. Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah. All right. Any other discussion? Great feedback. Thanks, Chris. Next item, number 8, update. I know Paul and Tom both were part of the little small group that went around identifying location for the speed sign. So not sure.
Well, I sent Paul, if you want to talk, but I sent an email around earlier, and I want to say we went down. We did cite the 2 signs on Route 30. We cited the sign on Pikes Falls. That one has been installed. We also cited a sign on Depot Street. At the time, Paul said it should be farther down the road, and they've installed it there. And I agree with Paul that it should be farther down the road, because you come around the corner there and you're right on top of it. And I've tried to speed through there. I can't get above 25. So, you know, if someone's coming down the hill, they blow through that and then they just speed up and go down. So again, you know, there's a little bit of trial and error here, but Paul had said we should perhaps put it down by Micah's house. Because someone coming down the hill is going to see it. They may not be there, before Travis's driveway and Kate's driveway, but they're going to see it and they're going to say, oh, I'm going 30, I got to slow down, versus they're just hitting the sign way too early. We're not going to get any good data either off of that. And I know I saw they had cemented it all in and everything, but I think we need to reassess, because and you guys can drive down there. I mean, go down Water Street or go down Depot Street, and it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I did today too. I guess some of the intent of the sign is to actually just build awareness. It's not necessary to catch people. But it maybe doesn't even provide enough time to do that. So
I don't think people are up to speed, although I did follow somebody. They saw the sign, they slowed down, and then they got a little bit farther down and hit their brakes again. So
yeah. I mean, I think that's the intent, that it slows somebody down. We don't necessarily need to catch them speeding. We just have them to be aware that there is a speed limit there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think putting it further down would be more valuable. That's my opinion. That's why I sent that around today.
Yeah.
Paul, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Keith can move it down without a major surgical procedure. I think it's just a concrete. I mean, he talked before about setting up stuff that we could move it around, so I think he could move it.
Yeah.
And if, I was gonna say, the worst case scenario is he goes and buys another footing or whatever. I mean, and then just has both of them instead of moving the one. I think they were only $50 a piece, and then he just buys a couple bags of Quikrete to put around it.
Yeah. We also decided to put a sign down by by Bob's property. I don't know if anyone's talked to you, Bob. Kind of around that corner there. Someone should talk to you about that before, obviously, it's going to be right there. But that would be facing into the park. So in the summer, it would just be there in the summer when people are coming up from the park, and in the winter, it didn't seem to make sense. We looked at some other sites down by the school, other ones up kind of across from your house. But this line of sight wasn't very good, or it was just, they're going to speed up, they're going to see that, and then they're just going to speed up when they get past that, once they get into town. So we felt right by that, where that stone wall is, they're just making the turn coming into town, they see it, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of houses, and then people will say, okay, I'm in town now, I need to slow down.
So this is after the school time, between me and
After school, after Warden Road too. Yeah. Okay. So ideas, to discuss. This is just, we went out and looked with Alexa and Keith.
There's a curve. Right off the bridge, there's a curve right at the base of the hill where the school is, that if we put the sign on the opposite side of the road from where you are, Bob, that looks up enough of the street. It also can see the curve, so that people entering the curve, their speed is going to be registered as well. So that gives us, again, more of a lead time to A, get their speed, and B, let them know there's something going on.
And the two signs on Route 30 then will be, we're hoping, we got to get approval from the state, would be right when you get to the bottom of the hill, right before the bridge. There's a sign there currently, and also then by the Masonic Hall. And we have a couple of signs we're looking to move around and see what we can work out with that. We have to move some signage around, the crosswalk signage. The goal is to have a speed limit sign on the actual sign, so they see that it's 25 and they're going 32, and hopefully that'll slow them down. That's the goal. Those signs, I guess, are purchased, but we haven't gotten them yet, and I didn't see them installed. I'm throwing out the other idea that, do we need to buy a fifth sign with the two on Route 30, the one on Depot Street and the one at Pikes Falls? There isn't a sign, and we don't need to do it necessarily today because the park's closed, or it's closing shortly. But do we need another sign that we just have kind of floating around if we want to find some other spots that are trouble spots, or if we want to have a sign, in the summer, we don't have to pull it from Pikes Falls, or we have to pull it from the Depot Street the other direction, to put it down there on the outgoing one from the state park.
I'd like to lobby to put off buying anything more until we get the results from the
Right,
winter.
I agree. I agree with that. I'm not saying
They haven't
tonight.
put the tubes down yet, and we're anxious to see what we got actually have.
Yeah, I like that too, just kind of waiting to see, because the other place would be coming down off of South Hill. Just having one up there somewhere to know what's going on.
Right. And I know that we talked about this last week with some of you guys. I had a couple of town people complain to me that there's a lot of kids playing on that newly paved road.
I saw them today too, yes.
Cones, and there's bikes all over the place and scooters, and it's really not a safe location. And, I know we talked about having this meeting once we got these other signs up, but I think we really need to stress if anyone's watching, that you know, the kids shouldn't be playing in the middle of the road. People come down South Hill, and they said they saw kids, like a pack of bikes and scooters. You know, they walk up to the top of South Hill now, and they come down going 80 miles an hour on their bikes, and it's
Yeah.
just not. It's just
No,
not
I saw
safe.
a semi log truck come down there today as I was coming off of Pikes Falls, and if there's a kid in the road, that
Done.
truck can't stop even if he's going 10 miles an hour.
Right. And it's just, you know, I know that the new road is great for bikes. We were all kids at one time, and it's so much fun going down like that, but it isn't safe. And if parents can, you know, I don't know if the parents know that the kids are doing this, but I'm just trying to stop a disaster from happening. I still think we need to do something, because I go up there a lot, and there really isn't any signage at all about coming into town. Basically, you come down the hill, and all of a sudden, if you don't know the area, you're just all of a sudden, wow, I'm at the bottom of the hill, and wow, there's all these houses, and there's Jamaica House and everything else. It's not signed that, you know, thickly settled, or, you know, town ahead, slow or something. There's no signs, and there's not even a speed limit sign. So
I think we do have a speed limit. I think we got a 25-mile speed limit sign up.
I think it's farther up. I don't
It's
think
way
it's
up, yeah.
it's way up.
Up
It's not
a ways,
down
yeah.
at the bottom there. I think we need signage, again, closer to the bottom, so people
Mm-hmm.
see it, and hopefully, and maybe put a stand in there that we could put one of the speed signs in if we wanted to move it from the one on Pikes Falls or the one on Depot, if we eventually buy that, and put it there. So people coming into town, again, they see, oh, I'm going 40 coming down that hill, and I got to slow down coming into town. I think with the more kids playing in the road because it's newly paved,
Yeah.
and the lack of signage or anything, this is a recipe for disaster.
And we can certainly put up another couple signs up there without getting a speed sign. I think we should get those
Exactly.
right
I
in there
agree.
right away.
Slow.
I'm still
slow.
like the idea of putting up the stripes on the road we talked about a few weeks ago.
The what one on the road? What did we talk about?
The diagonal
Yeah.
stripes.
I think so too. I think anything we can do is the town to try to slow people down.
Yeah, I know Keith and I talked about the diagonal stripes a little bit. I don't know. I mean, certainly we could put them on now. The discussion is that you put them down now and they fade so quickly during the winter that it'd be best to put them down in the spring, but we could do them both.
I just think a sign saying, you know, thickly settled ahead or slow, you know, kids playing slow, anything that's going to hopefully anyone who, you know, is going to see that and hopefully slow down. I just think, like I said, since they paved that, since we've paved that, it's just a racetrack. It really is. I think it's dangerous. It's far more dangerous than it was when it was bumpy and you went down that bump coming in and then you slow down a little bit and then you come to town. Now it's just a straight shot and the road goes up another, half mile, quarter mile. So people get even more of a head start from off the dirt road. So just wanted to voice that to everybody, you know, and if Keith can do something, but I think us sitting here and not acting on it it's like I say, I think it's a recipe for disaster. Someone's going to get hurt, and you know, and they're going to come back
It's
and blame
additionally,
us.
even,
I don't want anyone to don't give me
even coming off of Route 30,
yeah,
even coming off of Route 30 on Pikes Falls, where it makes that curve. The kids playing in there are pretty tricky as well because nobody can see them till after they've completed a turn.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, and you know, I think I really support having a meeting once the signs are up on Route 30, where we try to get community members in and really stress, yeah, we put the signs in and that's great, and we can do things to try to mitigate speed, but ultimately it's a partnership and people have to be responsible for their children and their children not scooting around in the road. I mean, it's just a reality. I don't know.
They do.
Yeah. Well, I can talk to Keith and Lexa too, and just get them to suggest a few signs. I mean, pull up in the sign book and see what makes sense to put up there.
Yeah.
I think a couple, 2, 3 of them. It doesn't have to be another speed limit sign. Sometimes those go blind, but something totally different, like you said, thickly congested or something of that nature.
Thickly settled is something that, you know, thickly settled is one I've seen in Brattleboro and down in Massachusetts. When you get into towns where it's thickly settled, like we have in the village.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That was, I liked it. That was prompt action on getting those signs up. Joel.
Yeah, right.
Just real quick, the term thickly settled has some legal meaning. I don't know what it is,
Oh, okay,
but it's a specific term that's used in.
okay. I've seen it on Cedar Street in Brattleboro. That's why I've seen it. When you come up the hill there from the retreat, there's a sign that says thickly settled right when you get to the neighborhood there.
Yeah, Paul.
Yes, several years ago, we had a conversation with the state guys about signs. And we were advised, and Keith can give you more specifics, to not put in things like children playing, those kinds of signs, unless you're ready to put them on every street in the town. Because if you only put them on one street and something happens on the other, then you're negligent. So their advice to us at the time was to not do that. So maybe things have changed, but we have to bear that in mind as we start, brainstorming these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other signs that make that get a couple different ones. Get some intriguing, interesting ones that someone's going to be sure to read. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to segue right into Tom. This is your agenda item again, or both of ours, I guess. But
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. So, guess what, everybody? Y'all need to change your email address, except for Jessica. So with SV Cable going defunct and selling out to Xfinity and Comcast, the SV Cable addresses that I set up for everybody for the select board back years ago that we talked about using are going to go out of use. They're going to be disabled. So I know, Paul, like you use your own, but I'm really going to make a push here. Everybody has an address, and I set Greg up now on it. Jessica has one. I have one. Sarah has one. I'm working with Terry and the road crew and the listers to get at Jamaica, Vermont addresses to try to professionalize our operation, our town operation. I mean, we have 500 addresses. We can make, that's unlimited as far as I'm concerned, because we're not going to do it. I also have offered addresses to the planning commission if they want them. So, this is a situation where, I don't know if the town or if we as a board want to force people to do this. From my opinion, I've said this since the time I was elected, I think it's important to look professional. And I think, when I send something from Tom Tover to JamaicaVermont.org and I say I'm on the select board, it comes off as professional. Greg, I think you think the same thing, rather than, I have some funky address that doesn't matter.
And I think that there is some legality behind it too. If for some reason, something came up and we went into litigation or somebody was called in and looking, the fact that you're using your personal email address for public use means that all of your personal emails are open for them to call in as evidence. So that's another, hopefully that never happens. That's one issue. And I know Tom and I bounced, there's 3 or 4 different reasons. It really makes a lot of sense to keep it separate. The professional side is one for sure.
Yeah. So I'm willing to set this up. I've set a lot of addresses up. Everyone on the select board has an address. If you want to work with me to set up the website, or I can help you set up an Outlook. I did that with Jessica on your phone. I'm more than willing to help you guys. I know Andy was interested in doing this. I know he's on the board for at least a couple more years, so he was interested in getting one of those addresses. As far as the forwarding of the SV Cable addresses, they're only going to be active until the end of the month.
End of this month, right?
End of this month. So that gives us really about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 week period where, if you have one of those SV Cable accounts, you can put a forward in and you can put in a little message that says, hey, here's my new address. It's this. So anyone who's sending something to you in the next 2 weeks, at least get something. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, that was my question. What do we need to do if we get the new address to connect? Is there a forwarding system?
There is from the SV Cable.
Yeah.
I know you use the Fraser crew for a lot of your emails. So, you could continue to use that again, and you could forward from that, or you could, on the published on the website would be the JamaicaVermont.org addresses. And, when I talk to Terry, hopefully tomorrow, that'll be put out there that she's going to make those changes.
All right, so let's you and I talk about what I have to do.
I'll talk to you offline. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
And I can set your account's already set up. Like the select board already has accounts because I've set all those up. So, I'll contact you in the next couple of days and we can work through setting this stuff up.
Yeah.
And I can walk you through forwarding the other mail as well. But I think it's a good push to do this. Like I said, I know Chris, we had talked about, I think I'd sent you some documentation. It's a lot simpler now. I kind of figured some things out. If anyone on the planning commission wants that as well, you know, I'm more than willing to work with you on that to try to set that stuff up too. So.
Yeah. It is a little bit more, I mean, I personally found it's a little bit more time consuming when you first get it going, but then once it's set up, it's just kind of nice to know you're going to jump into Selectboard stuff at a certain time and it's all in one place and you can find stuff, and there's a lot of simplicity behind that.
And again, I'm not saying people should use Outlook. I use it in Outlook. I have it on my mobile phone. Everyone has their own decision on where they have, you know, their email. It works perfectly in both of those systems. So, and you know, I have a work account, I have a personal account, now I have a Selectboard account, and I have 3 accounts in my Outlook, and I can go through each one of them, and it keeps everything separate, but it's all right there in front of me. It's great. I love it. So, like I said, I'm here to help anyone. You can call me offline, you know, but I think for the Selectboard, at very least, we should all get on the same page there. Obviously, for the treasurer and the town clerk, we need to do the same, and the listers and the road crew. And those accounts have already been set up, and I've sent the information to Terry, and I need to work with her. I don't know if they were in the office today. It was a holiday, but maybe tomorrow or the next day we'll get those up and get those updated addresses on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not sure somebody's reached out to Keith either.
Well, someone will need to reach out to Keith and get that set up. Yeah, okay. I can do that too. Because it's going to change on the website. So all of a sudden his email addresses at SV Cable aren't going to go anywhere. So if he has any correspondence, but Terry was going to kind of coordinate with me to figure out how to do that, then work with him. I can go over there too.
Yeah.
I'm working.
And the important thing is the end of this month, SV, it goes away. So you're going to.
That it doesn't do anything. And that's right. There is no forwarding that. And that's part of the issue, which I'm a little miffed at that, just from a standpoint of, you know, they're coming in, they're taking over, and then they shut the thing down in a month. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not really a lot of time for somebody to make a switch over. You know, if you have a lot of correspondence with an old email address that you've had for 10, 20 years, and now you got this new email address, and then nobody knows your new email address, and you don't have any forwarding.
Just one more token up to Comcast.
Yeah, I know. No, that's part of my problem.
Yeah, Joel.
Muted.
Joel,
You muted.
you're muted.
Okay. I don't know how valid this is, but the technician who installed my Xfinity told me that the email addresses would be valid for a year.
Oh, okay. That's better.
That's pretty, I mean, that sounds logical.
I don't know if it's,
I was
I don't know
shocked.
if it's so, but it may be so.
Well, we'll find out on November 1st. No, I think that is reasonable that they keep the servers. I don't understand why they just want to keep the servers up. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. It's not costing them any money. I mean, a little bit of maintenance. I was surprised that they were shutting it down in a month. So a year would be much better. And then that gives people time to transition out.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay, we'll see. Thanks, Joel.
Yeah, let's hope that works.
The other update,
number-
the other update too is that the town office and the town hall have both been converted over. So everything's working on the obviously at the town office, but also on the hotspot. I checked that, went over there and checked it out. We didn't replace any equipment in the town hall. They're still using the old modem from SV Cable, but we did get a business class modem at the town hall office. So, but everything's switched over as far as the town's concerned at this point.
Perfect.
The fire too, so.
Next item is number 10 is more just an announcement, and I apologize for not having this on the last meeting's agenda, just to give people a little bit more time. But on October 21st or 24th, Saturday, there is a household hazardous waste collection taking place in Brattleboro and in Wilmington. All residents are eligible to go there. They do these twice a year. Wyndham Solid Waste is actually putting together a year-round collection facility that's still in the works. So they've initiated these. They are required by the state for the municipalities, and that's part of the reason why we're part of the Wyndham Solid Waste. So I will be getting some flyers out and posting them up at the transfer station, getting them out so we can get them on our website and things like that too. So,
What time?
off the top of my head, I can't recall. It's like 9 to noon or something like that. I mean, it's a standard kind of Saturday morning time frame.
Yep.
It may even go longer than that,
There wasn't-
especially the one in Brattleboro.
There was not one in the spring. 'Cause
They're
I have a
correct.
lot-
Because
I-
of COVID, there was not one in the spring, right?
'cause I have a ton of
These
hazardous
things are
waste
fairly
around.
costly to do, and that was part of the reason why Wyndham Solid Waste was taking some of this grant money to build a year-round facility. We'll have limited hours and probably will roll out later this winter, but these are something that is done twice a year normally.
It's on my calendar.
Okay. Anything else? We've got just the review of the listers, timesheets from the, not the listers, timesheets from the town office listers and transfer station, the pay orders, those are all posted up online. I'm not sure if Paul looks like maybe a question or,
I have a question.
yeah.
On the pay orders. The Delory has a $4,500 charge for quote adjustment, unquote. What adjustment? I don't know what that means. Perhaps we can ask him to be a little bit more specific about what he's charging us $4,500 for.
And that was actually, I just looked at the cover sheet, I guess. So that was on the actual invoice, just said adjustment.
Yeah, there was two items for just that adjustment. Gave the dates in September, I think, and it had just that adjustment.
Yeah, well, let me check. I'll check with Terry and Keith. Unfortunately, several of our vehicles spend way too much time over there.
Yeah, well, in addition to those other ones, there's an awful lot of other, but they delineate what they're doing on the other bills. This
Yeah,
one just
it's usually very specific.
Yeah.
Titan spark plug, that level of
Yeah.
detail, but good find, catch. I will make sure that that's clarified with them before signing off on anything.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any public concerns?
I have something I want to ask the town. My girlfriend and I, it was her idea. I can't take credit, Jackie. We wanted to plant some wildflowers in that field next to my home to kind of beautify it, and maybe some sunflowers for next spring. I just wanted to bring it up to the select board, see if anyone has a problem with that. We were basically going to it's mowed and kind of in the ground between the strip where the grass gets high and stuff. Rototill a couple of passes there. I have a little mini rototiller, and then throw some wild seeds down, throw some sunflowers down. So maybe, in the late summer, spring, we'll get the wildflowers in the summer, and then in the fall, we'll have the sunflowers. I mean, so it's nothing permanent. It's nothing, it's not a structure of any sort. We're just planting some stuff over there. I wanted to make sure that you guys were okay with that.
I think it's wonderful. I mean, it's the whole place, it will become derelict with weeds and knotweed and poison parsnip and everything else. If we get in there and get more aggressive, planting some more sensible things in there,
Right.
and trees and whatever, apple orchard and that kind of.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to go that far, but I mean, from my standpoint, it was her idea, and I think it's a great idea. Just gives people, when they drive by, to go, wow, look at all the sunflowers. If we plant sunflowers down that hole, it's a pretty good, 200 feet probably, almost maybe 300 feet, a football field. And they'll have a row of sunflowers, a couple of sunflowers. It'll be kind of pretty.
Yeah.
Not doing anything major. And I know that Peter mows that, Peter Andrus. So he mows that strip. And again, we'll probably take the edge of the strip in. I mean, there's still going to be weeds behind. I keep poison parsnip out of there. I'm pretty good about that on that stretch of road there, because I don't want it around. But yeah, I kind of look after stuff. But yeah, so I will. I'm probably going to rototill it this weekend or something. I just wanted to check it out before people see me out there and go, what's he doing?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, guys, for your support.
Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Tom. Motion
Seconded.
third and fourth. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarah, for coming in on your day off. Thank you, Rich.
Aye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.